Good afternoon, B3L. Welcome to a wild Monday. This weekend, hopefully everyone is safe. Obviously, some conflict going on in the Middle East, a continued conflict and escalation. It's resulted in some crypto macro and overall macro volatility. And of course, we'll also look into some NFTs. It's been a while since I've done a session like this. I just wanted to get a video out there to get my thoughts out there on everything that's going on, both NFTs, macro, memes, crypto, etc., and what's happening, and get that perspective because we're at an interesting inflection point right now of are we still going up? Are we going down? Where is everything, right? And it's a little tricky to define that. And I think sometimes you got to zoom out and see exactly where we're at and where everything is potentially headed. So first, let's dig into NFTs. NFTs have been quiet. We know this for the last while. You can see here that volume is trending down overall, really kind of lower end volumes that we haven't seen. A little bit in February, but really back to early January. Um, Blur is low. Magic Eden's is gained some market share, hold probably mostly from OpenSea, etc. Give me a second. I'm gonna close my door. And so that plays out kind of interesting. But if we scroll down here, buyer to seller ratio, well, actually one positive day here on March 9th, 15% above potential mint day or something like that. I don't exactly recall what was the spike at that time, but we've been hovering in this 80-90% range still. Reasonable. It's kind of where we've been at for a while. It's not as low as February, etc. So generally speaking, it's pretty good and pretty stable. Uh, Daily buyers sellers, again, lower to what we've seen way back in actually October. Limited buyer seller activity on the ETH side of things. Same thing on total ETH sales, lower volume. Um, let's go down a little bit more here. Let's take a look at the indexes. Indexes are down on the blue chip side of things, down about 15% on the 6 month running. Um, so a fair bit, and of course, October, November was kind of when we went into that bit of a move to the upside from our kind of bull trap kind of idea. Uh, at that time, we're up in the terms of ETH terms, but ETH has taken a run down here over this past weekend. So we're still only up about 60% in the terms of ETH USD value. ETH is up more in that duration span. Over the last week, we have CloneX and Meme Land Captains as being the sole projects that are up. Creeps, other side, leading the way about 15% down in ETH value. Monthly, Azuki up, Doodles, Punchy Penguins, kind of the showing the strength there. And all three projects have been, in this kind of release cycle span, and that's why we see them up, kind of contrary to most other things. So the delivering and expectation of some upcoming activations has those three being positive and bullish. Mid cap is right at level, so 2% up on the 6 month. So outperforming blue chip it has for the last little while, and up about 200% in ETH value. A lot of projects here in this mid cap range have performed pretty well. Sandbox leading the way on the week. Heavy Metal, Cool Cats, etc. On the week. Uh, Redacted Amelia Babies. Uh, the one lone bright spot on the mid cap over the last month, as Miladies and Redacted Remelios have performed well. Really kind of almost into this kind of crypto trader side of things where they see their most success with that. So that's the general overview on NFTs. We'll take a look here at degens. There's a couple of interesting things I like to look over here. First off, I think the ETF flows are really an interesting tab. I think I've shared this in the past, but it's one that's really quite interesting to take a look at. And this updates later in the day. So I'll be very curious to see what Monday comes in at with everything that's kind of occurred over the weekend. Is there some sell off into some of these ETFs? Very curious to see how that is, but it's a cool one to look at to see what the flows are. They've slowed down a bit overall, but still positive inflows outside of GBTC, which should also slow down as time goes on. And then we have NFTs. NFTs is sorts it by ETH, Bitcoin. So you can see here Runestone performing really well. A lot of the Bitcoin collections in general performing well. If we were to sort it by market cap, I have that ability here. Maybe not on this particular one. Maybe that's what this is already doing. Sorry. Um, where is this coming sorting through? 1 day volume. Okay, so that's 1 day volume. Um, used to be by overall market cap. Um, but a good way to look at Bitcoin ordinals have kind of held flat. A lot of the success has been in the uh, uh, BRC tokens and the anticipation of those coming out. So Rune Pups, Rune Stone, um, all the way across the board have seen some pretty good success. And so what these are basically proxy to a meme coin tokens that will launch post halvening. And so there's been a lot of success in that space. But overall, if we look at activity, it's been fairly stable and performing more positively in Bitcoin and the ordinals and etc. in that ecosystem in general. High sales, a lot of X copy has performed really well, uh, and then overall punks kind of lead the way still. They're holding reasonably, um, but if we take a look in here, we'll look at some of the main collections over on Parsec, and this is always an interesting look at the kind of NFT um, ecosystems in general. So what NFTs really face right now is a bit of a uphill battle for attention and intention of where profits are being made, right? So we're still seeing success in meme coins and crypto market in general outside of the, maybe the last week here. And so now you get to this dilemma of, okay, I'm holding this NFT worth X amount of dollars that is trending downward. Why can't I sell it and move into crypto, etc.? Fair argument, uh, risky argument, I think. But because the crypto side of things and the NFT side of things, they're two different kind of perspectives and trading areas. But that's what I think is kind of continue this cycle and drawdown of overall NFTs. I know when we last talked, I was looking at 10 is possibly the uh, floor for apes. We haven't seen levels like this. We have to go way out to the weekly. and way back to early days to try and gauge where there's any kind of support, and that's 6.3 I have marked off. That's super early. Before that, it was this 12, 13 range, which we bounced around in a little bit before pulling down, but we're in this kind of gapped range here. So we dropped 10, we're looking at 6. And so that's the perspective that we're looking at. But overall, downtrending in most NFT collections, certainly in apes. So yeah, support down here, 5.66. Um, and we're in this this downtrend for the most part. So looking for it, obviously to slow down, maybe consolidate on 10 and spend some time there post halving, and then you have some opportunity for it to move. We could get some sideways crypto action, and that would be positive for NFTs. So that would be the potential positive that we're looking at here. Pudgies. Oh, what did I do? Okay. So this is on the daily? Looks like a weekly. What's going on here? Oh, it switched off of Pudgies after I clicked on it. There we go. The Lasso Get is a collection by the Puppets artist that has been performing quite well lately, and so that's why it's up there in the leading volume charts. So looking at Pudgies, you can see this long-term downtrend. Well, long-term being mid-February off of the 28th highs. So we're really riding that channel down. And the last time we really dug in and looked at this is right off end of March cycle here, and you can see this down arrow drawn out, and we're looking at moving in that range. Now what we want is to hold 10 and stay in this range, and possibly look at getting a bounce up and out here in the next few days. This comes up right to that, actually to the halvening, where this trend reaches at least this first degree of support. It's likely that it's going to go further down to this 9 would be the better form of support, drawing this back. So I think actually I would adjust this and move this right down to here before we would be able to define what's going on fully, but trending downward to likely 9 at this point. But there is potential for a bounce at this 10. Miladies have performed really well. We'll take a look here. One of the few bright spots. You can see this strength moving up. Do a little bit of some work on this. A bit of support here at this 4.3 range. If it follows with other NFT collections here, looking to go back down, but interesting to look at this range right here. But kind of close to a bit of a double top. So I would say that this is unlikely to hold, and we're moving down more on Miladies. Zuki. So Zuki up to test the support, back down, and now we're into this kind of 3.6 range. We had the kind of more of the token information and news come out. Now for Uzuki, I think the next catalyst is their anime project that they release. But it's in this range now. Again, moving down this line of trend likely goes further. So a bit of a move in this range, a little bit up and down, out until possibly May. And if it breaks above, then it's interesting all the way back up to 5. So that's where the range is for Izuki. And captains will be the last interesting one to look at here. So captains going back to October support. Which is around that 3 ETH mark. But just kind of moving down off this trend here over the last couple of few weeks here, trending down with them, but possible consolidation right around this 3 ETH here, with a look to move back up with captains, with their token bits and information going on too as well. That is great. Line. Okay. So want to pause there. Any specific questions in regards to NFTs, NFT macro, etc., before we dig into a bit of crypto? You can always toss it into the club chat there and watch it from there. If not, then I'll move into crypto, Bitcoin, and cycling down and what it looks like there. And of course, how that impacts what we look at for memes, etc. I think overall, what we look at here in ETH and ETH NFTs is that it's this cascading effect, right? So macro, Bitcoin, Bitcoin into secondary altcoins, into meme coins, into NFTs, kind of following that meme coin cycle, altcoin cycle. So meme coin, altcoins, likely a little ways after the halving, and how that all kind of rolls out. So some time yet to move focuses, and it's all kind of where can a trader make additional efforts and gains and bets beyond the kind of the stability of other crypto assets, as they kind of aren't where the attention is, right? So taking a look at crypto, first off, Bitcoin, as I kind of opened up there, a bit of instability going on in the Middle East, resulted in a pretty significant sell-off over the weekend. So on Saturday, down, I think it was about almost 15% from the highs, but just in the short time frame where we're at. Over the weekends, we had a drop of 13% um, between the 2 days there, roughly the 24 hours. From that, get a bit of a rebound, and now we're still pushing down. So what you want to look at is your time horizons. Currently on Bitcoin, we're essentially trading sideways on the daily, bit of consolidation. So we're not we're not bad. We're not super bearish on the daily. If we were to get bearish on the daily, then we're 60, possibly 55, 60 off the 200-day moving average, kind of in that range. If we start trending downward, which is kind of we're in this channel here, 62K. Close below that might make this a little bit more bearish. On the 4 hour, we lost support at a different level, and so with that, on the 200, so we kind of flipped short-term uh, downtrend off of that. Now we kind of held some of these prior levels, but as you can see here, we're trending down off of that. So whether you want to argue whether or not it's trading sideways or we've lost this kind of 200-day support or 200-point average, that's kind of the question there. But it's at least short-term bearish on the 4 hour and the 1 hour below that. And like I said, daily is still strong, but trading sideways. And even if we were to come back down to 55, 56K, we're still positive. So I think, looking at some of the cycles we've seen in the past, uh, around the halvening, etc. In 2017 is almost similar to this, a bit of a post dip and then rally could be expected, right? So we might not be out of it yet for Bitcoin. So just kind of a perspective to keep in mind there that there could be some more downside from where we're at until we start to see a bit of a positive turnaround. There was the announcement of the Hong Kong ETF approval for Bitcoin and ETH. There's a brief rally on that. It's positive for crypto over in Asia, and something that's I think necessary as they've been in this place of not uh, really supporting crypto, but it doesn't really change a lot. So the ETF isn't allowed to be bought by, I don't know if it's mainland China or if it's um, Hong Kong residents, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But either way, it's somewhat limited, and it's expected that ETF market itself isn't super big. So there is some questions there on whether or not that stays. So yeah, it's a little bit interesting there overall. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so any thoughts on Bitcoin in general? So Bitcoin leads the way. So when we've seen the sell off on Bitcoin and it moves 13% down over that period of time, other ETH, Solana, much more dramatic moves to the downside, but they can also, sorry, recover faster as well, right? So um, it's this kind of risk profile that kind of exists throughout. So um, 19%, and then the lower part 23%. So all the way down to 2,800 on ETH, which is a significant drawdown. Solana as well, down to 125, which is pretty crazy. Go, buddy. Go. Daddy's busy. Okay. Can you close the door? Um, So quite a move, bounce right back. Uh, you know, great opportunity in some of these collections to to catch a bit of a dip, at least on the daily time frame. Again, like I said, the 4 hour hourly, they are trending at this point downwards, and so capturing this dip isn't necessarily meaning you're capturing a local bottom, right? So keep that perspective in mind. Bitcoin, oh, improv.
Hey, Rhodes, how you doing?
Good. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Cool. Have you done any overlaying on where we are now with Bitcoin versus previous cycles coming into and out of the halving? Just
Yeah.
correlation in the market movement, price movement, ranging, topping and bottoming.
Yep. So some of it, for sure. And it's tricky. One of the things that we saw here is that we did break all-time highs pre-halvening, so it makes this cycle slightly different, right? Um, but if we were to go look at it on the weekly here, uh, where it kind of is interesting, I probably should put this in log. Of course, I don't do that often, so I'm missing where there it is. But the 2017 is somewhat similar, right? So this rally in, a bit of a sell off just before, and a sell off kind of during and briefly after, and a move up. 2021 or 2020, we kind of just stayed flat with again a bit of a sell off leading in, very small one, but a bit of a volatility moving into the halvening, and then similar on this cycle here. So overall, this is not any different than what we've seen in the past moving into cycles, uh, and dominance kind of tends to ride pretty high on Bitcoin leading into a cycle, etc. And then as the market really moves up, you're going to see a switch in dominance at the halvening as well. So all kind of quite interesting with that. But yeah, the 2017 cycle at the moment is kind of the one that I think is most interesting the way we're coming in. Very very similar coming in, and so right after it was a rally up. Though one of the one of the items that we're fighting against that I found was kind of interesting is that um, we were having kind of one of the best runs for Bitcoin over a period of time. So what it means by that is this cycle of 7 months of positive activity on Bitcoin. So we've had this run up for the last 7 months. 7 months would mark the longest that we've ever had, or at least tie the longest that we've ever had. Uh, we kind of had a 6 month run. I think way back since the last time we had a 7 months. So we could be looking at a down month here for April, and then ready to rally again here. So we might have another week or two of uh, downside, or at least where we're currently at, before we kind of move off and continue our run upwards. That all is based on things remaining consistent and as expected. There's no improbability of 60 or 74 have been the cycle top, right? I would think most of us would say that's not the case, and it's not likely to to be to occur. But crypto is still reliant on what's going on in the larger macro cycle, and it still hasn't proven to be a hedge for uncertainty, inflation, that kind of stuff that you see with gold, for instance. So there's still some elements to it that, you know, leave it to be still uncertain, right? So it's always important to keep that perspective in mind and keep aware of where key levels are and with that. But like I said, Bitcoin kind of drives the ship at the moment, right? Especially for crypto in general. So we watch what Bitcoin is doing because it's going to have impacts on everything else, right? So Solana, ETH will move more volatile than Bitcoin most of the time. You can see right now, actually ETH is outperforming Bitcoin a little bit here. I'm not sure if that's the carryover from Hong Kong and that kind of almost a bit of a ETF bullishness that Hong Kong approved. Maybe there's more optimism towards U.S. or ETH also sold off more than Bitcoin, right? But they'll rebound faster. So dominance is pretty strong here, still looking bullish overall, right? So as Bitcoin dominance moves up, then that means alts and meme coins aren't necessarily in their full cycle yet. So we've had this amount of success without that cycle going on. We can see now we've pulled back, and this is kind of where some of the mean activities happen over the last month or so. Actually, sorry, I gotta scroll that back. I'm looking on the shortest time horizon here. So sell off, going back. But if we move off the 1 hour here and into the daily, right? So sell off, dominance on Bitcoin, and then buy back on some of the alts here with that. But again, on the daily, still strong for dominance holding in this 50, 55% range. And when it starts to move down, that's when your alt season is really fully on. And I think that's kind of as Bitcoin makes this initial run up, that's where alts and meme coins will push even harder. At least that's the general expectation.
Yo, Rhodes, if you have a chance, take a look at the Bitcoin rainbow I sent in club chat.
Yes, Bitcoin Rainbow is absolutely one of the best charts to kind of keep things in perspective of what Bitcoin is doing on a logarithmic basis. Um, and I think a chart that here I got to switch my screen share over to Discord here. 1 second. Perfect. So right at the bottom end of the Bitcoin Rainbow, and I don't know if I can make this.
No, that's the just the link, not the embedded.
Okay, that'll switch it from. Second as I pull it up. Perfect. And this is a really good way to look at where it's been on previous cycles as well. Leading in the moments in and after, but we're really on the low end of the spectrum, moving up with you know potential of um, size that ballpark wise goes anywhere from 150 to 250 to even higher on what this cycle may do, right? But we're in this kind of early stages of where things are at with the halvening coming up. but this is the highest we've been coming up into any halving. We've always kind of entered in this like lower blue range, so we're early moving in, so that makes things a little bit different. And curious to see how that plays in. Does that mean we run up higher, or does that mean that we have less kind of movement that we can expect? I don't know, right? So um, yeah.
Yeah, I think the chart's kind of delayed, but I think it's relatively good time to buy Bitcoin relatively soon.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, do we have lower to go? Possibly. We could look at even lower prices for Bitcoin, but I think overall where we're at, Bitcoin right now is the asset that should lead the way post halving, right? So wait to see how that is. I think GBTC, as those outflows slow down, as ETFs kind of settle in, etc. Is there further expansion on ETFs into mainland China? Does that change things? That kind of makes it quite interesting. I know there's a lot of appetite for crypto over there. It's hard because it's limited on what can be done as a citizen. So very curious to see how it is. But there's still possibility, at least on the daily, for more downside. But we're at a good point here where you could look at it and say, okay, is there a bounce off in this um, you know 2.25 trillion range and up, or do we go push down a bit lower to say 2 trillion range with it? So that's overall market cap, but again, very similar to Bitcoin. And then, like I said, from there you look at alts. Um, on alts, everything's going to be very similar on the daily. What you're looking for, on the immediate time frame is, do we have anything that looks positive on the say the 4 hour hourly? Because that's where you might get some outperformance of crypto. So that's something to watch at. So I'm not sure if we have anything that looks any indifferent, just from the kind of the weekend move, other than Bitcoin dominance. So Ton has been really strong. Ton being the Reddit coin. It's remained super strong through everything. Still quite early days, even on the 1 hour is still pretty good. So that one actually stands out. Pendle is another one that's performed well. Litecoin has kind of follows Bitcoin for the most part. Stays down significantly. Even CAS
Yeah, everything's just down from the
from the
war
weekend activity.
potential.
Yeah. And there's still some uncertainty around that too. There's talk of additional retaliation. So I think with that, it still holds a bit of uncertainty on where things reside. Render tried to recross, but it's still below, and you'll see it more on some of the meme coins. Brett, pretty stable through all of this, although this chart doesn't necessarily do it proper justice. looks stable, but it's a 23% move down. Just this the way this chart is um, set. It's a little wild. So the question is, like, if you have some dry powder on the side, are you looking at some of these memes to jump in and buy, a bit of this drawdown, or is it, wait and see before moving in? That's the harder question. I think, if I'm leaning anywhere, at least short term, it's still more downside. At least I've kind of resolved myself to that, with Bitcoin and where it's headed, and that we're, maybe a couple weeks out before we really start to see momentum kind of regain. Um, but I could be completely wrong, and it moves off of these current levels, and we're back up to that 70K range, and consolidating in that area. But you know, and if that happens, then yeah, this is a good time to enter some of the more prominent memes. In I think if I were leaning anywhere, I'm leaning on the majors, right? So Doge might be a bit early, but I like Brett leading the way on base. Um, where else? Um, yeah, Brett, Pepe, Doge. I would reside mostly in the leading edge, at least until we see where things uh, lay out. There was a patch, and I don't know if it's made any improvement, but there was a patch for Solana that went in, and so that's apparently to alleviate some of the congestion issues for Solana. And I think Solana might naturally have had some of that relieved, just in the fact that there's maybe a little bit of pause on some of the meme coin activity, but there has been some efforts improvements, and I think that was really important to have happen, for us to get back into full on degen on Solana. I think Solana was seeing the best success, with base and Ton and ETH, kind of trailing from there. Yeah, that's most of what I had to cover. I'm gonna pause to see if there's any more questions, thoughts, etc.
Are you looking at any meme coins recently over the weekend? Or
No,
just the war stuff is
I was
destroying everything,
yeah,
basically?
I was watching the volatility. So Saturday was my birthday, so I was out and about. I got all the wonderful alerts from Coinbase of everything dumping, and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" I was able to research and find out it was the war attacks in the Middle East, and then I was like, "Oh," and then, so I started paying. I was already watching quite closely on Bitcoin on this level right here, and I was like, "Okay, do I sell some Bitcoin and let it ride for a bit?" And I wasn't necessarily sure that was the best idea, because it seemed like it was still trying to hold and stay strong. But then we get this big dump, and of course then I, along with everything else, kind of get this bit of fear in it. So I sold. I managed to buy back above where I sold, but with fees and gap in price, I mean it was a lost trade. So it was a poor move, and then I ended up actually allocating more in, as things kind of went on. So I've been really focused on Bitcoin for the most part. I think there's probably some really great opportunities to have, um, instead of putting more into Bitcoin, to layer into some memes, just because of their the amount that they bounce back. after any of these kind of moves. But when there's uncertainty, there's this Bitcoin kind of is the most stable outside of just kind of pulling fully out, right? So it was kind of wild in the sense that it was like such a kind of quick swing, and then it seemed like, okay, we're back, we're recovering, it's all good, and then now we've kind of continued this, at least downtrend for the current moment.
Yeah, if you look at the Bitcoin price, it's even dropped. It's just continuously dropping compared to even if you look at Dogecoin, right? Dogecoin recovered from the low, um,
Mm-hmm.
while Bitcoin's just even lower at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
Doge, yeah, there's a few bright spots across the board that are outperforming. ETH continues to outperform here on the day. Maybe some ETF flows with BTC. I don't think any of those reports are in yet. I don't know exactly what time they come in at. I always kind of like watch for it, but it's usually later in the day that we start to see some. I don't know if there's a better place to see it. The DGen seems to be pretty current, but I've kind of tried to look around for where the best place is to capture when the GBTC outflows are and some of the inflows kind of come in. Often it's not towards the end of the day before that all comes in, but maybe there's some ETF activity that's kind of leading the way, so it's a kind of a delayed reaction to the weekend possibly for some of the Bitcoin. And then of course also like oversold on some of the other ones where they tend to recover a bit more after that move down. Because even with Doge, let's say where we're at now, down 21. Bitcoin. Trying to make sure I grab this at the right spot. 7%, right? So yeah, it's you zoom out and look at it on a higher time horizon. Obviously the weekly, monthly still look really strong. The daily still looks good. Um, everything looks really good. And then if you reflect it to previous cycles, the dip and the move into the halving has been kind of consistent, right? And so that is also to be expected. At least some pre halving dip. So we had it in 2020. We had it almost identical kind of process in 2017. Um, and then we kind of have a bit of one going on right here as well. Although the 2017, if it's to follow the same, then there was a much larger dip post happening, which I don't know if we're in the same line for at this point. So yeah. Slide over to Dex for a second. This isn't. Is this updated?
Been looking at a Pepe coin, like the one that's associated with based AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I'm all about it. I moved a good chunk of my Pepe into that.
Redo was the one I was looking at prior to the weekend. Um,
So
it's hard to say which one wins out uh over for Reddit chain there. Toshi is another one. But I think, well, actually no, not Toshi, but what was it, the other one? Rose. Um, was seemed interesting, but I think Redo is maybe the one that's the winner over there. But just looking at those prime kind of leading ones, but if you look at it across the board, it's looking quite strong. Which Pepe coin?
I can send it to you.
That's always a hard thing is when you get these multiples as well, right? The different versions. You want to make sure you have the.
I put it in club chat. Yeah, dude. They need to put like their contract in their Twitter, because like every single time I want to look at it, like it's so hard to find.
Yeah.
I sent to you on club chat.
I think I got the right one actually. Kind of an interesting spot right here where it's at. It's 475. So prior resistance and support. Put that in there. And this is on the 15-minute. Come down a bit. Roughly in that range anyways. It's pretty close, right around there. So bounce off there. Be ideal to break and hold. In this 580 range, but I mean those are pretty good swings. But it could bounce off 460 and then back up. The 5-minute, 15-minute, 1 hour are all probably mostly bearish, but I think there's been a bit of a overall slide in the last, say, 30 minutes or so. Not really. I mean, it's kind of just a slow bleed. Yeah. What's it at for market cap? 650. Anything else? Come on, lost my. Interesting. Okay. Doesn't hold the chart stuff on price to market cap. When are we doing our next larger session? That's the real question.
Most likely tomorrow, but we'll see when IO is ready. I still have to ask him.
Sure. That sounds good.
Either tomorrow or Thursday.
Okay. Sounds good. Keep me posted as to what time, because I'll need to run home beforehand. So I'm at my full setup here. So, but yeah, that'll be good. Be
Sounds good.
interesting to see where things are at with Bitcoin, et cetera, and how that is kind of playing through. Obviously, there's going to be good value out there if you move into the right meme coins, timing out the Bitcoin bottom. Awesome. I'll post up the video here in a bit, and then yeah, I'll wait to see when our next session is, and go from there.
Sounds good, Rhodes. Thank you.
Yeah, take her easy, guys.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.